The third largest asset manager in the world with over $10 trillion under management is now even more bullish on Bitcoin than BlackRock. Is 2025 going to be the year where hedge funds are racing to get more allocation to Bitcoin? It seems to be shaking up that way. Now, don't just listen to it from me. Let's tune in to what we heard the other day on Charles Schwab's network.
And how much of a portfolio do you think should be allocated to cryptocurrency at this point? And has that changed now that we have a very pro-crypto president coming into office?
Absolutely. I think if you don't have at least 10% of your investment account in Bitcoin or Bitcoin-related assets, you're going to fall significantly behind. So that is.
Wait, what did she say there? Does that seem bullish to you? She said that if you don't have at least 10% of your allocation to Bitcoin or Bitcoin-related assets, that you're going to fall significantly behind. Let's listen to that one more time. She said 10% of Bitcoin and Bitcoin allocation. Now, let's listen to it one more time here.
Pretty but improved.
And how much of a portfolio do you think should be allocated to cryptocurrency at this point? And has that changed now that we have a very pro-crypto president coming into office?
Absolutely. I think if you don't have at least 10% of your investment account in Bitcoin or Bitcoin-related assets, you're going to fall significantly behind. So that is our advice at Moonwalker Capital.
Bitcoin-related assets like what?
Sure. So Bitcoin ETFs are Bitcoin-related assets. MicroStrategy is a Bitcoin-related asset. Bitcoin miners such as Hut 8 and Mara are also Bitcoin-related assets. So there's other ways. Coinbase stock is another one. So
now, just how bullish is Tatiana here? We've got Johnny in the chat. Greetings, man. Merry Christmas. Glad to see you joining in here with me today on some extremely bullish news that we have here, right? So Charles Schwab, just how big is Charles Schwab, right? I mean, it's absolutely massive, but don't just hear it from somebody. You're like, oh, you know, it's just somebody on their network. It's not necessarily Charles Schwab saying it. Well, now let's listen in to another clip we got here where Charles Schwab's president is saying he's feeling silly for not buying Bitcoin.
I never like to judge what people want to invest in. People on our platform, we think, are very thoughtful investors, very sharp. They make decisions about what they want to invest in, and crypto has certainly caught many's attention. And they've made a lot of money doing it. I have not bought crypto, and now I feel silly. So they've been the ones making all this money. You know,
So did you hear that? Again, Charles Schwab said, all right, everybody, all the investors are being really smart. They're investing in Bitcoin and crypto. I know it's a little cringe hearing the word crypto being thrown around, but I think that they're still in the early stages of Bitcoin and their Bitcoin journey here. You'll see, as I'll point out in a little bit here, that Charles Schwab's using their platform to promote a lot of educational resources relative to Bitcoin and the growing Bitcoin ecosystem. So I think that that's going to continue to change here. But I think on the positive side of things, it seems like they're creating an arms race for more allocation of Bitcoin. BlackRock released the other day that, you know, they wanted at least a 1 to 2% allocation to Bitcoin. Well, Charles Schwab saying, hey, if you're not getting at least 10%, you're going to fall behind now. And everybody that has invested in Bitcoin previously, they feel like they're the smart guys. But, you know, how big is Charles Schwab relative to BlackRock? Well, according to December 16th, so less than just about a week ago here, Charles Schwab has $10.3 trillion assets under management, making them the largest publicly traded investment service firm in the United States. So, you know, they're the largest investment service firm, but, you know, just slightly smaller than BlackRock. Well, and I think that is, you know, a very huge distinction here. They're only $2 trillion. All right, you're at $2 trillion. A big amount, but that's 20%, right? So if they allocate more towards Bitcoin than, say, BlackRock, you know, you could see a big top being blown off here. And, we'll let my buddy Luke here kind of fumble it if he did the math incorrectly, but this 10% allocation is significant, very much so, because this 10% allocation could basically put, $900 trillion worth of assets. 10% of that is about $90 trillion of hypothetical demand now going towards Bitcoin. Now that $90 trillion, you got to put the 6x multiplier here when it comes to the market cap, because we've got my friend Willy Woo here, and I'll share this tab here to just kind of highlight it. So if you could see towards the end here, you can see that the price gain of per dollar that you see here per dollar invested of their market cap, it gets about 5.8, so just 6 for round numbers, right? So we'll go down to my friend Luke and kind of show you here. But this will bring you to a $540 trillion market cap for a measly $25.7 million per coin. Now, you might be saying, okay, this is absolutely crazy. What are we talking about here? But I don't think you're realizing just quite how much demand is still out there and sitting on the sidelines for Bitcoin. We've got a lot of room to still grow here, folks. We've got potentially nation states racing to buy Bitcoin. We've got the world's largest asset manager and the world's third largest asset manager seemingly in an arms race for telling you, hey, allocate more of your money to Bitcoin. At least 1% to 2%, BlackRock says. At least 10%, Charles Schwab says. Okay, so now they're going to be pushing more of their clients, more of these big money people towards Bitcoin, because it's been their fiduciary responsibility, and it's been their responsibility for years on end, and they haven't been doing it. They've been falling behind. They've been losing to all these Bitcoin investors who simply just hodl. That's all they've had to do. Just hold Bitcoin. And they've been crushing all these investment managers. And these guys, as you very well know, are very competitive. So now they're coming around and saying, okay, you know what? I'm tired of getting my ass beat. So let's take a look at this Bitcoin thing now. And they've been paying attention to how retail's been doing, right? So let's dive into more of this, of how retail investors have been trading and how, Charles Schwab's been noticing this change
into Bitcoin. And I think the question is for the market, from a market standpoint, is where do you think that flow is coming from? Is it, out of tech into Bitcoin as it once was thought?
So here's what's interesting, Melissa, is there's been volatility at multiple sectors. It's kind of hard to say specifically, but where we've seen weakness technically would be energy, materials, and real estate. I think that's where you've seen kind of some of that movement out of those sectors and a little bit more into Bitcoin, specifically materials. I don't know if you can consider Bitcoin a replacement for gold, but there's been some investor talk about that.
So, Charles Schwab's already pointing it out here that more and more people are looking at Bitcoin as gold or some sort of other sector, and they've been moving money from other sectors into Bitcoin. So that demand of 10%, it's not being all shown here just yet, but it's coming, folks. I mean, the tidal wave is here. We've got more access to Bitcoin than we've ever had before. Let's sit back and think really about that, right? All these investment firms now have spot ETFs. They have futures ETFs. They've had other different products that they're going to be making money on, right? They're going to be making a spread on this. So if they know that the demand is there, they're going to be making money on it. They're going to be pushing Bitcoin on their clients. Now, I am not here encouraging you to buy these ETF products. I'm just simply telling you that there's more demand coming for Bitcoin, and it's coming quick, folks. Now, let's tune in a little bit more here to where they're seeing this money kind of coming from.
Is there more interest in sort of the Bitcoin ETFs or in the Bitcoin-related stocks like a MicroStrategy or a Marathon?
If you look at the Bitcoin ETFs, those are the most heavily traded, where because it's given access to retail, and MicroStrategy is doing the same thing. We traded 800,000 contracts today in terms of the options. So it's been a really big surprise, and something that retail has really kind of adopted is the ability to kind of trade it through options and trade it through the ETFs.
Joe, the evolution of the retail trade over the last 5 years is astonishing, I think, and good for them. But their ability to go from sector to sector and sort of turn on a dime, I'm sure you see it there. They're just navigation of what's been an interesting market.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. When we look at our stacks report, basically it takes monthly movements and monthly buys and sells in client accounts. We do see that there's volatility in that sector move. I'll give you a perfect example. October.
So they're already saying that they see a lot of the volatility already coming in here when it comes to Bitcoin. People moving in and out because it's the most liquid market, and it's the most liquid and free and open market that there is. It's drawing a lot of attention from retail, to say the very least. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? And as my buddy Mark in the chat is saying, bring it on. I mean, here we are. We've all beaten all of these giant money managers to Bitcoin, and they're now looking at it and saying, hey, we got to catch up. And more of these folks are starting to pay attention. And I think that that's going to continue here. So, we've got a lot of investment in ETF products that they claim is adding access to retail, right? Sure. We've all had access to Bitcoin, but there's certain money accounts that you haven't been able to access Bitcoin, right? They've used MicroStrategy as a hedge. They've seen MicroStrategy absolutely skyrocket. And maybe I'll do a live stream on more of MicroStrategy here tomorrow, because they had some big news on that. But, we're seeing more and more of this kind of come in here, right? And I mean, this report from Tatiana here is extremely bullish here. Tatiana Kaufman, she went on national television, made some head waves here. So now let's hear what else she had to say, because I think there's something else here that's really interesting that everybody should hear as well.
Less regulation around it. I guess what I really am trying to wrap my head around is, President Trump has talked about Bitcoin, and I think that's certainly bullish for crypto, but why is it that he's going to be so good for crypto? And I mean, we're seeing it priced in right now, so we're seeing it happen right now, but why the bullishness?
You have to understand that these financial institutions, they have a lot of oversight and they have a lot of checks and balances, right? Mm-hmm. And even these institutional investors, aside from banks like endowments and sovereign wealth funds, they have several checks and balances above them as to where they allocate their capital, and nobody wants to make the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you now have an incoming president of the United States giving you a complete green light that this is now a legitimate asset and it will not be prosecuted, and the financial activity around it will not be the financial innovation around it will not be prosecuted, is giving these decision makers the green light to go and allocate capital in a way that they were too scared to before.
Okay,
so President Trump now is bringing a bunch of confidence forward for all these Bitcoin hedge funds. The potential of all this oversight was maybe, mitigated here now, right? I mean, more people are more willing to look at these things and look at Bitcoin as a potential investment, where previously they were afraid of oversight. They were afraid of everything, right? So their plan have been directing towards crypto regulation and amid some regulatory changes, right? I mean, this was less than a month ago, and we're seeing now that that United States has elected President Trump, and the U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs have been coming in. That they're just all kind of looking at it more, but they're still kind of in the early stages of Bitcoin here, right? They're still in the early stages of what could potentially be, their orange pilling journey here. I think it's, they're still kind of tossing around the education arm of things. They're still calling it cryptocurrency investing. They're talking about their spot ETFs or potentially some of these spot ether ETFs. And they're looking at, they're essentially promoting a lot of what these products that they have here, right? So, I'm not surprised that we're seeing Charles Schwab start to go and move in this direction, but I also think that it is, it's not surprising where we're seeing, them try to educate you on cryptocurrency, what to know about some of these things, because they're offering now these products and services of Bitcoin spot ETFs and everything like that. So, as Johnny is saying here, all roads lead to Bitcoin, and I agree with you. I couldn't agree couldn't agree more. Excuse me, about what is going on here with everything, right? I mean, they're all going to start to lead towards Bitcoin, and I think a big part of it is because they've been seeing, a lot of these retail investors just simply just kick them in the tail, whoop their butts when it comes to their return. They haven't been able to match it. And it looks like, we got a lot of lively people in the chat. So, hey, Pam, how's it going? Good to see you. Hope everything is doing well for you down in El Salvador. And hey, this is a great prediction here from Johnny as well, where the Time Magazine 2025 Person of the Year will be Michael Saylor. I would not be surprised if that is the case. I wouldn't be surprised if, we start to see that, just simply because of his influence that he's had, right? We have a lot of other businesses starting to come to Bitcoin because of Michael Saylor. We have him everywhere it seems to go. He went to Brazil. Now they're talking about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. He's, met with Jeff Bezos. Now they're talking about adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet. His influence is definitely being shown around the globe. So I think the two most influential people previously towards Bitcoin were Michael Saylor and Nayib Bukele with what he's doing with El Salvador. But I think going forward, it might be President Trump and maybe Michael Saylor as well, because the U.S. getting into a Bitcoin spot ETF is going to be absolutely huge here. And I think that that's going to continue. But we're seeing a little bit of a run up, not quite the all-time high with all this bullishness here. We're seeing Bitcoin kind of floating around at 98K. It crashed a little bit yesterday down to 92. Everything was all over. But hey, now we're back sitting at 98K on the rise back up here. And, I don't know with all these things going on here, how you could sit here and be bearish on Bitcoin. But hey, if you want to sell off your sats a little bit and help us scoop them up right before we get some of these green candles here, hey, like that play on words here as always, right? So, I can, that's fair here. The line man, how can I say Bukele without mentioning Max Kaiser? That's, Max, say the least, is very influential as well. He's a very loud guy on the internet who's been absolutely influential, right? He's got more influence than I do when it comes to Bitcoin, to say the very least, right? He's been able to move his weight around. He's got deep-rooted connections in all aspects, really, and has been around the block for a while. I saw a video the other day of Max and Stacy talking about Bitcoin and shilling Bitcoin when it was at 30 cents. So Max and Stacy have definitely been, moving this forward. And I think, Max and Stacy's influence on Nayib Bukele and the way that they've been able to kind of work in El Salvador and continue to be very bullish on El Salvador is something that shouldn't be taken lightly. I think that, Bukele is definitely, turning that thing around, turning El Salvador around. And I think Max and Stacy are at the center of that. And they're definitely, doing great things. But thank you for the kind words, Pam, as well. Bullish on my YouTube channel. I hope everybody's bullish on everything we got going on here, because of not only all this news that I'm dropping for you guys, but also, all the great products and services that we're seeing come out of this, right? We're seeing some great things and some other industries kind of be flipped on their head, not only because of the price action that we're seeing, but because of Bitcoiners in general, because of the things that we're doing to try to make sure that everything can be, continuing to go forward, right? So, and one of those big industries that I think needs to be flipped on its head is crowd health, or is the health insurance industry. Excuse me. I gave up my secret for you, but I've partnered with Crowd Health, and they can help you find awesome doctors. They can help you negotiate your bills. They can help you, pay through and fund your bills through a peer-to-peer funding platform. And do all this for extremely cheap. You can use promo code GreenCandle for $99 a month for your first 3 months. It'll save you a bunch of money, a bunch of sats, and it'll get you the healthcare that you need, right? So, I mean, I'm very bullish on Crowd Health and what they're doing, the community that they're building. I'm a part of the Crowd Health community, so I can help you fund something. If you break your arm, they're going to help you find the best care that you need and not get, taken to the woodshed when it comes to these medical bills. That's a big expense that a lot of people have to face, and a lot of people put off doing medical care until the end of the year here because they didn't reach their deductible. Until now. Now I'm telling you that you don't necessarily need to wait. You can go and find great service and the service that you need with Crowd Health. And the other aspect of Bitcoin that I think is extremely underrated is holding your Bitcoin yourself, doing that in cold storage. But it seems like a daunting task, right? So not only have I partnered with Crowd Health to bring you guys great insurance, but I've also partnered with The Bitcoin Way. So you could go to thebitcoinway.com/greencandle. You could set up a 30-minute consultation for free. They will help you get your Bitcoin off an exchange. They're working literally around the clock, 7 days a week for you. They're not working today or tomorrow, but I am. So maybe I should get on to the guys for that. But I'm just kidding. But they've got some great stuff right there. They can help you get your Bitcoin off an exchange. They can help you protect your computer from any sort of cyber attack, and they could get you a Plan B passport, because why aren't you doing that, right? I mean, you should always have a backup plan, right? I mean, the Bitcoiners are always talking about being self-sovereign. Don't give yourself a single point of failure when it comes to a Plan B pass, or when it comes to a passport, a single residency. Spread yourself out, and there's truly no negative to that. So why don't you look into that? And the boys at the Bitcoin Way can help you do that. So remember, folks, remember all the stuff that I'm, kind of lining out here. We're having hedge fund managers really dive into FOMO, into Bitcoin, and all the great things that it offers here, especially with the price action that we're seeing running up. I don't know how you couldn't be bullish with everything here, with all that and all the great products and services that we have coming out here as well. So if you're new to the channel, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and feel free to check out my latest interview. I had a great interview with my buddy Jim here from Cascader, all about the decentralization of AI. And so, the big stuff that we have going here is, a lot of industries being flipped on their head. So look into AI, look into Cascader, see how you could do that. I'm using it. I give it the green candle stamp of approval. So check out that interview as soon as we get done here, and I will see you guys all at the next one. So thanks so much for joining me, and have a Merry Christmas.